All right, everybody. So welcome to the first ever episode of the Art of House podcast. So our first guest here, we have Mr. Sir Round5ound. So welcome. How are you doing today, man?
I'm good, man. I'm good. I'm glad to be here.
Yeah, we're glad to have you. Also, we have our co-host here.
What's up, y'all? Ollie McIntosh.
Yeah.
New to Knoxville area, but not new to the music.
There we go. So, we want to get started. Where we want to go, let's start about where you're from. I think everybody in Knoxville, we're starting to see you around. You're getting a little bit of buzz around town from playing. But I don't think really anybody at this point really knows too much about who you are, what your history is. So I want to take it back, man. So from what my understanding is, you're from Ireland. So,
yes.
So let's talk about a little bit, like you grew up in Ireland. Let's talk about your early days and your influences with music, where you're from. Just tell us a little bit about that.
Yeah, I grew up in a little town called Newton Ards. It's just outside Belfast.
Okay.
And for people that don't know, I grew up through the Troubles, which was like when the IRA bombs and all that stuff was going off. So it was a strange kind of time, and it was a weird. It was hard to get. It was hard to get music. Anybody that was into music when I was younger was kind of looked at a little bit weird.
Yeah.
Because I was a bit more hermitish, and I like to be in my bedroom listening to the music and all that kind of stuff.
Can you talk about the music real quick?
The music?
You were talking about like it's hard to get the music. One thing I'm curious about was the you were only like 10 miles from Belfast, right?
Yeah.
And so you had all that stuff going on. I have friends from that area. Some of them think of themselves as English, and some of them think themselves as Irish.
Yeah.
And with music here in America, it's very centralized. Like house is known for Chicago, Detroit's known for techno,
yep.
And England and the European area, a lot of London and stuff has that real big kind of interesting disco sound. When you think of yourself when it comes to music, is it influenced by kind of the amalgamation of being in an English and a Ireland area, or what do you identify with that when you're talking about your music? Like, what kind of music are you looking for?
Yeah, I mean, as far as identifying, I'm kind of not English or Irish. I see myself as Northern Irish. I come from Northern Ireland, which is its own separate place. A lot of people don't know, but I don't subscribe to the English thing, and I don't want to get into the political side of things.
Right.
Because that's.
But the music influence from that area.
The music influence for us, it was sort of the late 80s, 86, 87 when I really started getting into music. My first big influence was actually Queen.
Okay.
I had been given a guitar. My grandfather gave me a guitar when I was like 7 years old.
So is this what we're talking about when you said you're in your bedroom?
In my bedroom.
You're in your bedroom listening to Queen.
Yeah.
That's one of your earliest music memories.
Yeah. The first physical record I ever bought was Queen 2, the album.
Very cool.
And I kind of fell in love with that sort of harmonic sound of Brian May and what he could do with the guitar. And it was different than what everybody else was doing.
Yeah.
And it was very theatrical and it wasn't just sort of rock music.
Yeah.
And I like that more theatrical kind of.
Can't tell with the beard.
Yeah.
And stuff,
I mean, but yeah, and I sort of fell for it, and it was at around that same sort of time I had discovered Soul to Soul, Back to Life.
Yep.
Oh man,
it's a great one.
You kidding me? Yeah, dude.
It kind of sort of hit big in the UK and in the UK charts. I think
they're British, weren't
they?
Yeah.
Jazzy M, and
yep.
It went to like number 2 or number 1 in the charts, and it was everywhere. And
my first CD I ever bought was Soul to Soul.
Nice.
Yeah. Oh, that was fantastic.
So that was my first kind of introduction to the more sort of that style of music rather than rock music, because my mother was a big sort of Motown fan and listened to a lot of ABBA. I knew if I woke up on Sunday morning and ABBA was playing, she was cleaning the house and I should stay upstairs.
Yeah. So what did you feel about her music at that time? Did it play a big influence on you? Or
yeah, I think it probably did, because when I kind of discovered Soul to Soul and house music and that kind of...
Yeah.
That Soul to Soul had that more R&B kind of sound, and it was more in tune with kind of the Motown stuff and the Temptations and Marvin Gaye and all those people
that she was coming through.
Yeah, that she was listening to. So it kind of started to pull me away from rock music.
Yeah.
And then sort of Mars came along, and The Prodigy came along, and then I kind of went.
So let's slow down a little bit. So how old is a young surround sound when we're talking about this era right here? What are we talking about?
You're talking like 12 years old.
12 years old.
Yeah, just hitting high school and for us, high school starts at 12 years old.
That's great music to start puberty with, man.
Yeah,
Yeah.
it was kind of the birth of sort of the whole rave thing in the UK.
The what thing?
The rave.
Rave, okay.
Yeah, it sort of arrived. It was kind of like,
So what year are we talking?
we're talking sort of 88, 89.
Okay. Yeah.
And,
Summer of Love.
Yeah, and
Yeah.
that's when it sort of really sort of kicked off for us.
Okay.
But it was a harder kind of sound. I think being that we were, how we grew up, the harder kind of sound came through. So
Yeah.
it was more sort of hard style.
What about the
hard
acid?
house.
Because that's when I think of that
yeah.
period in the from that area, I think about how the acid hit.
Yeah, the acid kind of hit, but for us, we kind of we had a lot of sort of Scottish influence and
Okay.
Northern English, so
Okay.
like the Wig and Pier guys and all that kind of stuff.
Okay.
And we were getting like Ultrasonic and Ultimate Buzz and all these sort of like QFX and stuff, these live bands.
Yeah.
And they were the only ones willing to come to Northern Ireland.
Would you guys consider like Scotland almost like the Detroit of like Europe when it comes to music? It seems like a lot of like that more kind of aggressive sounds come from there. That more machine sounds.
Yeah, I mean Scotland. Yeah, I mean at that time in the 90s, in the early 90s, it was very very hardcore.
And you were really feeling that.
And I
right?
was feeling it at the
Yeah.
time. I had an Atari ST, and I had like the first edition, the Cubase, and I could make those sounds. I couldn't make the tracks at the time, but I could make those sounds. Like that's the sound from the Ultrasonics track. Oh,
All right.
hold on.
So let's slow down though.
Yeah.
Because I have a question. So you say now you've got Cubase. How old are you?
I'm probably about 13, 14 at this
13,
stage.
14. So when did you decide that hey, I want to I'm listening to all this new music, all this interesting new music that's coming in. When did you decide that hey, I want to be a part of this? I want to try to make some of this stuff. So when did you? How did that come along with the getting your first copy of Cubase and all that? Did you have to beg your parents, save money? How'd this happen?
Not at all. Actually, the thing about the ST was one of those things. I had wanted a computer for Christmas.
Okay.
And everybody was getting Mega Drives and all that kind of thing at the time. There's
Yeah.
Nintendo,
super high tech.
Super Nintendos and kind of stuff. And
Yeah.
and my mate, my buddy, Stuart, he had an Atari.
Okay.
And the Atari ST, which was kind of like the Commodore Amiga.
So it's basically like an early computer.
Early computer, yeah. And his dad had one, and he played the guitar. And it was actually him that introduced me to guitar music, like Queen and things like that.
Do you play any instruments?
I play guitar, I play drums, play piano, play a load of things.
So are we doing those things at this time? Are you already playing guitar? And
I'm playing guitar and playing drums at the time, yeah.
Okay.
When you
keyboard
were
was new.
discovering like the music and getting into that, that new discovery, electronic music and all that really kind of interesting stuff, and you're kind of growing from this Queen album, this guitar riff, and that sonic sound.
Yeah.
Did you abandon guitar for a while, or did you bring it all with you while you're kind of going down this journey?
Yeah, when I discovered turntables, the guitar took a back seat.
They tend to do that.
But it was only for a while, I think, sort of, as I get into my late teens and I started to get a bit more experimental with actually making music.
Yeah.
That's when I was like, oh, I can't find a guitar sample that I like. Maybe I could play one.
Yeah.
And then I just opened the brain again,
Brain
and I
back
started
up.
I started getting back into the instruments again.
Yeah.
But yeah, the turntables was kind of like I was into the music and stuff, but I still didn't understand the DJing thing.
Yeah.
I hadn't been to any parties or anything, and there wasn't really much.
What were your first memories of a DJ?
My first memories of a DJ, the first DJ I ever saw live
Yeah.
was Carl Cox, believe it or not.
Oh, wow. Okay.
That's my neck of woods, man.
So what year are we talking about with
So
this?
we're 92, 93.
92,
Nice,
93.
nice.
And their Hellraiser had come to Belfast, to the Ulster Hall in Belfast.
So for us Americans that have no idea what you're talking about, what is Hellraiser?
So Hellraiser was kind of like, like you guys, the Art of House. It was a
Yes.
collection, and these guys would go on tour, kind of like a touring kind of festival thing, but it was
Okay.
like they would go to
Different cities. And
different
do their
cities
thing.
and they would do their thing. So there was Carl Cox, Trevor Rothcliffe from London,
Love
Pablo
Trevor.
Pablo Gargano from Portugal.
Yeah.
It was such a lineup, and I'd never really seen DJing other than like little bits of sort of scratching and stuff I'd seen on TV.
Yeah.
I'd never seen anybody really do it live. And then there's Carl Cox with 3 turntables,
Yeah.
just killing it. What's funny about that night is actually it was the first proper rave I've ever been to.
Yeah.
I watched the podcast a couple of weeks back with Fergie. You know Fergie, the techno
Yes.
DJ?
Yes.
Yeah,
we
yeah.
do.
He's from Larne. He's from Northern Ireland, same place.
Yeah, nice.
His first rave was that very same rave.
Oh, wow.
And
Okay.
the reason I know it stands out for a lot of people is because about 45 minutes into the show, there was an IRA bomb warning,
Oh no shit.
and
my
we
gosh.
were all rushed out of the hall. But we all ended up outside, and somebody's car was parked nearby, so they turned on the music, and we all partied in the street.
Yeah.
People dancing on top of cars and stuff until they let us back in again.
That just built your culture right there, did it? You know,
yeah,
just gave you the
that's-
full idea of like
And that's-
how it's
yeah.
what the culture's like. It's
And
not just like some, you know, main guy on a stage being whatever. It was a family. It was that that real plur idea. You know, all that
Similar
real jazz,
here. Yeah, similar thing. I've been to many a party that was shut down, and next thing you know, everybody's out in the parking lot. Somebody has a car on, and the party might as well still be going on. So similar experiences.
But it was so much fun, and it got me my first taste of that world.
Okay.
And then we all went back in again and watched Carl do his thing, and I was just like,
Hooked.
I want to do that.
Now, have you reached out to Fergie recently and say, look, you know, we need to be best friends? That was there? What's up?
I haven't spoken to Fergie. Oh my God, I haven't spoken to Fergie since he took a break. Actually, he had some of his own personal issues and took a break from everything. He actually only recently came back during the pandemic. Actually.
Oh really?
But I actually haven't spoken to him since maybe 2008, 2009. I saw him he was playing Voodoo in Letterkenny when I was living in Donegal, and we all went up for that show. But yeah.
Now, when did you get turntables? Like, when did you like?
Well, before we go there,
Okay.
I'm still interested because I know we've not got to DJ. Well, we started out. We're talking about you've got this Cubase program on your and you know your friend had the Atari. so right now I'm very curious.
Are there lost tracks out there that we can actually sell right now? Is what I want to know.
but
there may be a floppy disk somewhere.
but seriously, like, so before you went to this first rave, how long have you been like playing with the music and experimenting? And by this point, have you already like kind of started making your own tracks or anything like that?
Yeah, at that point, I was already starting to make music.
Okay.
And obviously, you know, before I get into the electronic side of things, my friends were all in bands and stuff, so we all jammed together and we all did that kind of stuff.
So you understood like the structure of music already, like
Pretty much,
the bridges and all that jazz, right?
Yeah, I understood sort of the theory side of things. The only thing I didn't really understand was the electronic thing.
Yeah,
you know, it was new. It was new to everybody, really.
Yeah.
It was a wild, wild west. I mean, if you
really
listen to
was.
some of the stuff back then, so experimental.
Oh, amazing as well. There's some of the stuff that was
that
made
one
back then
track
couldn't do
sounded
it now.
like, and thinking about DJs mixing that stuff.
Yeah.
You know, that was before we started genreizing everything.
Well, that's what I loved about sort of that early rave scene. It was kind of that, like, you would go and see Carl Cox and he would play everything from house to drum and bass.
It's the way it was here too.
You know, and it was a bit of and you know, fast forward into now, my style is still very much like that. I like to drop random songs in the middle of a set just because it's fun. You know.
Well, yeah, I mean, we played like last month.
Yeah.
And that was probably one of the most amazing sets I've seen in a long time. Just, you know, we'll get back to what you're talking about, but just, you know, you can definitely see that influence of not just one genre, but one world, one, you know, kind of all, you know, kind of really feeling the crowd. But anyway, back to you producing music, so I want to hunt that down and make some money.
Yeah. So you're working with it. You've got Cubase. You're working on some tunes. You go to this party, you hear Carl Cox play, so you say it kind of changed your DNA a little bit after that point. So
just a little. Yeah.
So with that, where did the turntables come into play? When did you actually start, you know, like saying, hey, I want to do what Carl Cox was doing, you know, like I want to be a part of this world and get these turntables. How did you get into the actual DJ side of everything?
So I have to give a shout out to a guy called Gareth Chambers, who was a good friend of mine in high school, and it was actually a friend of his dad's. Had an old Citronic disco unit.
Oh,
you know, the all-in-one. Didn't have a crossfader.
That's some old school stuff right
there.
No
crossfader on it. It had
How big was it?
Oh, man, it was about the size of this table.
And how old were you at the time?
I was like 15.
So it had to be like this.
It was
just
huge,
be like Star Trek
and
stuff.
it was heavy. It took two of us to lift it.
Yeah.
And it had this like microphone thing that came out that didn't work. And it was belt driven. There was no pitch faders.
Yeah.
So we were really
primitive.
Yeah. But I think that's a massive learning lesson. You know,
learning to mix on belt drive.
You understood. It teaches you real quick what you don't have and what you need.
Yeah.
So yeah.
Well, when it comes to the sort of the beat matching side of things, I mean, I know some people struggle with that, and I don't want to sound cocky with this, but beat matching to me is kind of just when I got to a set of turntables where I could actually pitch and match the beats.
But you're a drummer too, right?
Yeah. So
you've got that metronome thing going in your blood.
So it came kind of naturally to me, and coming off the belt drives and having to manipulate that a lot.
Yeah.
Excuse me, sorry.
Like, whoa, this is easy.
I was like, well, okay, this is. I'm kind of into this, and that was kind of where it went from, and I DJ'd on that thing for like 2 years.
Okay.
You know, we didn't have a lot of money growing up.
So let's just go back to timeline. So I'm just trying to keep it, like, trying to figure out where we are. So how old are you at this point? You're 2 years in. You're DJing. 15.
Yeah.
Okay.
So 15 going into 16. I was just getting into my 4th year of high school.
So in high school, were you walking around telling everybody you're a DJ now?
Not quite yet.
Oh, I'd be pimping that even how terrible I was. Hey, I'm a DJ.
Not yet. It was still kind of new as well to a lot of people there, and they were still coming into the music.
Did you feel like a DJ though?
Not at the time, no.
Oh.
It was still hard to get the music, and I wasn't playing any gigs. It was just sort of in my bedroom and stuff. And then, fast forward a couple of months, school disco was coming up.
Oh.
And
here we go.
There was a DJ in around town called DJ Boy. DJ Boy, and he was kind of the guy.
Yeah.
And he was kind of the one we all wanted to make friends with, you know, because he was like a couple of years older than us.
Yeah.
And, you know, he had technics and,
like, whoa,
you know, whoa, and an Intimidation Blue mixer, and it was like, whoa.
Damn.
So it was like, whoa. And we all wanted to be friends with him, and he was supposed to do the school disco.
Yeah.
And then for all of a sudden he wasn't doing it. And there was a message put out in school that they were going to have a couple of ideas. What did we want to do? So myself and Gareth and actually 2 other guys, David Whiteside and Gordon Crockard.
Okay.
Gordon Crockard actually went on to become European motocross champion.
Oh, nice.
And he runs a motocross school in Spain now. But we got together. We'd been doing all this stuff up in Gordy's garage. And we decided to form this rave group.
Like a collective. Yeah, some people still do that.
Whitey and Gordy were sort of MC dancers.
Yeah.
And me and Gareth were kind of like MC dancers / DJs.
Oh, I didn't know.
Wait, you MC'd?
Not really.
Come on, be honest, because I want to make you do it now.
No, man, because it's not.
We want to see you dance. Is what
Not
we
good.
see.
Dancing, dancing. I'll get up and dance. I don't care.
Yeah, okay. But so that's awesome. So you guys have you got your crew now.
Yeah, we got our crew.
Yeah.
Base 2 Energy. The letters NRG. That was the name.
Oh, we got energy going.
Yeah, Base 2 Energy.
Yeah.
We had the white boiler suits. Whitey had gone and with a black marker drawn these really cool logos on the back of them. He was super
awesome.
artistic.
That's some old school b-boy stuff there, man.
Yeah, we basically took over the school stage. We got a load of we stole a load of road signs, a load of please do not cross tape, and we did it up like a proper old school warehouse alternate style rave.
So this is for the school dance.
This is for the school
You
dance.
converted the school dance into an old school rave.
Basically, yeah.
All right, so let's slow down. One question.
And granted, it wasn't old school then. That was brand new stuff,
It was
man.
brand new school.
That was
All right.
that was some.
So you guys have gotten in with DJ Boy. So
Yeah.
now y'all got the access to the techniques. You got the shiny blue mixer.
Yep.
Y'all ready to jam out. Y'all got a gig. You've got
Yeah.
this. You got the
This is
school
your first
dance.
gig, right?
Yep.
So before we move into that, so in this part of the country, where were you guys getting your records from?
So we had a record store in our local mall. We had a little mall, a little record store called Golden Discs, and the dude in there was super nice. They didn't have a lot of dance music, but if you asked him for it, he could order it.
He could order it. Okay.
But there was a shop in Belfast called Snafu.
Snafu in Belfast.
Snafu in Belfast.
Okay.
And it was a clothing store upstairs, and then you had the record store underground, and it was called Underground Music.
Yeah.
And that was the place to go. That's where everybody went to get their records.
So did you go crate digging before your gig, or did you already have
it was kind of one of
some
those
collections already?
Yeah, it was one of those things where we'd already sort of started to get those collections together. We there was mail order stuff you could do. At the time, you could still order LPs from Britannia Music. I'm not sure what you called it. I don't know what you guys called it.
That was the one where you would spend a penny and
Yeah.
get 30 CDs?
Yeah.
And then they're like, you owe us $400, and we're like, nah.
Yeah,
Nobody ever
that was the
paid.
one.
Yeah.
That was the one. So I managed to get some records and some really good CDs from that. But at the time, we weren't really doing the CD thing. It was still records
Yeah, it
for
was all
DJing.
vinyl, yeah.
It was all vinyl. So yeah, getting the records was kind of hard, and there was a lot of swapping and borrowing from each other and things like that.
Like baseball cards, almost but with records.
Pretty much, yeah. I mean,
So what are some of these early cuts that you're playing at this dance? Tell me, just name a couple.
name a couple. Let's
kinda
go right
curious.
back. I was playing something like Age of Love, Future Sound of London, Papua New Guinea, all that, Mr. Wazzo Flatbeat, that kind of stuff.
Yeah.
And then I was also playing kind of the harder ravier stuff. I had Artemisia bits and pieces, those kind of uppity kind of.
So all over the
happy,
place.
hard-
Do you still have these? Do you still have these records? These vinyl?
Those records, there's still a case of records sitting in my mother's attic back in
Yeah.
Ireland. I know for a fact there's one record there that's pretty valuable.
I was gonna say I would love to go crate digging.
Yeah.
at your mom's house.
Yeah.
You think she'd be okay, if I'm out there and about?
Hey,
knock on the door. Hey,
knock on the door and say, "Hey, can I go up and look at Chris's records?" She'd probably go take them away. They're in the way. Take them out of here.
How did your dance go? I'm curious about that.
It was amazing.
So your first gig,
It
people
was-
were feeling what you guys were doing.
Well, it was kind of that thing because it was
The NRG crew.
the energy, the whole energy thing and the whole rave thing, because there was nowhere for us to go.
Yeah.
When you're 14 or 15 years old, and at the time,
it was probably making a wave at that time too. So those kids
Yeah.
were probably thinking, "Oh God, here's another school dance with some crappy mainstream '80s crap," and here you're showing up, just kind of making a scene, not only just
Yeah.
playing like great music, but also making it an event. Like we didn't get that in high school.
No.
Yeah.
So that was our thing. It was kind of, we wanted to make it something a bit more, make it a show. And here's the thing: we got absolutely tortured after it. Like they made, like so many people made fun of us because it's high school.
It's high
Yeah.
school, of
And
course.
that's the thing. But for us,
Probably
That means they
jealousy.
really loved it, is what it is.
Well,
They
for-
knew it was something.
yeah, for
I
us,
knew it was-
for us looking out there and seeing everybody dancing, that was kind of my first taste of it. That was kind of my
taste.
first thing to
Gotcha.
go. I remember, and the reason I remember Artemisia Bits and Pieces is because when I dropped it, excuse me, sorry,
You're fine.
um,
Take your time.
when I dropped the track, the place went nuts.
Yeah.
And that was my first ever reaction
Yeah.
to a record.
Yeah.
And that was a buzz like I'd never had before.
Yeah.
And it was kind of like, okay, this might actually be something I really want to do. And then I started collecting tapes. And
That's when you became addicted.
that was it. Yeah, it was.
Yeah.
I started collecting tapes of other DJs and listening to their mixes.
Yeah.
And just sort of stopping and starting and rewinding and going, he brought it in there.
Yeah.
That's what it. And it
I
was,
did something very. I was doing my research, so I know exactly
Yeah.
where you're coming from.
And
with
we didn't have YouTube or any of that kind of stuff, so we had to rely on these tapes. And there was the
Well, you
harmony
also had to
tapes
rely on
coming.
your friends too. You guys
Yeah.
were feeding off each other. And I think
Yeah.
that's something's kind of missed now. It's just like going back to that time you went to that rave and the bomb threat and everybody went out.
Yeah.
It was community. It was
Yeah.
always community. And when your friends were getting together, were you guys, I'm curious, were you looking at like, we're going to be the next big thing? Or were you just like, man, I need this. I want to do this, and let's share it. That's all I need to do. And you had that community doing
Yeah,
that.
there was. I don't think at the very start there was never any thought about it ever being a job other
fun,
than
yeah.
I want to do this and I'd love to play a warehouse party. I
Yeah.
don't care what it is.
I think we're all that way.
I just want to play one of these parties, and it was never about money or anything at all.
So another question too, while we're talking about these warehouse parties. So there's your generation. You're coming up. You're developing your skills. So who are the guys in Northern Ireland at this time? Who are the the guys that you guys were looking up to?
Talking about like the locals?
I don't know. We're talking local, just in that
Yeah.
region. Who was doing things? Were you guys the first generation to really start doing it from your area, or was there a generation before
there
you?
there was a generation before me.
Who are some of those guys?
So you're looking at guys like Gleave D, Mark Dobbin, Mandy Reid.
Okay.
Fergie's another one.
Yeah.
Fergie was kind of an anomaly in a sense.
Yeah.
Because he get picked up very young.
Yeah.
Like 16, 17 by Tony DeVitt.
Okay.
And Tony DeVitt took him under his wing, and he became Tony's like protege.
Okay.
So and then all of a sudden, next thing he was on Radio 1 and he had his own
Yeah.
show, and so he kind of
Game
blew up,
changer.
and he was a local guy doing it.
Doing big things.
But for me, it was more the local resident DJs that had
Yeah.
more of an impact on me, because they were the guys that I was speaking to the most. They were the guys
Yeah.
I was trying to get friendly with so that I could get into the clubs and play them.
And are you playing? Is this in your town, or are we talking Belfast?
We're talking my hometown,
Okay.
Newton Ards, and then there's another town called Bangor.
How big are these towns?
Newton Ards has a population of about 10,000 people.
Oh my gosh.
Wow, okay.
Bangor's about 15,000.
Wow.
Oh wow! So we're talking about small communities,
Yeah.
but they still have like little scenes.
Oh yeah, well here's the thing. Bangor had a nightclub had a bar called Charlie Haggerty's, aka the Helmsman.
Yeah.
And it, through the rave scene early in Northern Ireland, it became kind of one of the places to go.
Okay.
Charlie Haggerty's, they were bringing in like all the big names, Trevor Rockcliffe and
Yeah.
and sort of the Ultrasonics and all these guys, and it was a local place that we could go to. The only problem was all of my uncles are all doormen.
Oh, so they know you were there.
My family, I'm actually the smallest guy.
Wait a minute, they didn't hook you up? What?
No,
How cool is that?
I'm the smallest guy in my family, believe it or not.
And you're like, what, 12 feet tall?
Yeah, I'm like 6'1" and I weigh like 225.
Ding dang Vikings over there.
And
I thought
my
I was
uncles
tall.
are all like 6'4", 6'5", 6'6" plus.
Yeah.
One of my cousins used to be UK Strongest Man.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, check him out, Glenn Ross. He was UK
Nice.
Strongest Man 3 years in a row.
Nice.
So yeah, these are the guys who are all working the door at these nightclubs, and the nightclubs.
Arm wrestle. No.
Yeah. Oh, I'm a weekend.
I'd actually love to see that.
So the nightclubs in Northern Ireland were all the doors were run by security companies, and I say that with inverted commas. They were all paramilitary organizations, so it was all IRA men, UVF men.
You know, I was going to ask you about that. Like, you know, going back to you growing up in Northern Ireland, and a lot of us do know the history.
Yeah.
And even though things at that time, that was after kind of that treaty of peace and all that, but it was still, you know, there's history, you know?
Yeah.
And, you know, I'm curious, when you're starting to kind of get into the scene, as you're starting to grow in the scene, you're starting to figure everything out, did you kind of almost have this feeling of, in here, we're a little more at peace together?
Very much so.
Yeah.
I think
that had to be part of that addiction too.
Big time. I think a lot of the peace process and everything else in Northern Ireland was actually helped by that scene, because the dance music scene took over.
Yeah.
Like for like from like 93 to sort of 2002, the top 10 charts in the UK was dominated by dance music, whether it was garage, drum and bass, house music, techno. Like, there was very little pop music coming through.
Yeah.
And what was coming through, it was big pop songs that were going to number one, but the rest of the songs in the chart were all songs we were hearing in the clubs every week.
That's very cool.
So, you know, it became a culture thing, and it came to the point where we were having festivals, and you had people from both sides of the divide mingling together, no trouble, all just there to party.
It's so cool hearing that.
So it's like a neutral
yeah.
zone.
Yeah, it became a neutral zone for a lot of people.
Yeah.
Not to say that there wasn't trouble, because of course there's trouble everywhere.
Yeah,
but but
that's only when I show up.
It became a kind of unified thing, and for me, it helped me to venture outside of my own little box. I grew up in a very sort of loyalist, unionist area of Northern Ireland, and very sort of sheltered from a lot of it.
Yeah.
And going into Belfast kind of opens your eyes a lot.
Sure.
And then I started going to parties, and I started DJing at parties on the other side, so to speak.
So what is so tell us, what do you mean when you say the other side? Because I think a lot of the people that are listening, you know, don't know what you mean by that.
So yeah, to put it in simple terms, you've got the split north and south, Northern Ireland, Southern Ireland, Protestant, Catholic, Unionist, Nationalist. So Nationalist would be they want the United Ireland, they want Northern Ireland and Ireland to become one again.
Yeah.
Unionists want to stay part of the UK. I grew up in a unionist area, but I fully believe it should be one country. I'm an anomaly in that sense. Yeah. I think my exposure to other worlds and other people opened me up to that kind of thing. But so for me, going from a staunchly unionist area, and from my family background, my family name is kind of notorious in certain areas, so I had to be very careful going into sort of nationalist areas. I was going into Belfast, and I was going into sort of what are known as like IRA strongholds, and a little kid from Newton Ards should not be here.
Yeah.
But because I was a DJ and I was into the music, and there was never really any of that questioning.
Yeah. A little 6'2" kid with 200 pounds, but
it never really sort of. It never really come up until a little bit later in life.
So we used to run into that, and it's kind of interesting because when we're thinking about the scene, the music, and our influence, you know, a lot of people watching this, they're going to be thinking, there's a lot of people who are a part of this scene, and we see that what this scene did for America, and how we, you know, kind of brought things from Europe over here, but how, you know, as a kid in Chicago, you know, I was finding myself in some pretty bad hoods, but at no point did I ever was concerned. You know, I mean, you got to be smart, but you know, at no point was I concerned. But I think that a lot of things, and I've traveled the world, I've been around, but I never even thought about this. Yeah. You know, this is a real interesting kind of influence on you, and something that a lot of us should know about is, you know, our little story is interesting, but this music scene that we love so much is worldwide, and it also is very impactful in some really interesting ways.
Yeah, I mean, that's the thing as well. It's funny because you mentioned the American thing, and sort of house and techno are, you know, American discoveries.
Damn right, I'm going to make it American. It's a Chicago thing. What are you talking about?
Yeah, I mean, of course you're going to kick in with the Chicago thing. We'll bring Trevor back, and you can argue the New York Trevor. No, but so it for us really. It was that kind of thing would have brought a lot of us together, and you know, because of the area I grew up in, and the people that sort of, you know, it's kind of hard to talk about that kind of stuff because it's not something that I'm overtly proud of either. You know, but it's just, you know, your family gets involved in certain things, and your name is known for certain things. So, and I've always been that kind of black sheep. I was never interested in that. It was all forced. as a kid, you're forced
You're
to go
just
to
born
these
into
things.
it.
Yeah.
So yeah.
But as I was getting older, and I was,
Well, you're finding. Do you think like this music scene that you fell in love with at that time, and as you're not only falling in love and just listening it passively, but also very much involved in it and growing with
Yeah.
it, that it's something that a lot of us want, but it gave you that opportunity to really find your own personal path outside of any influence other than your desire for that music and that your desire to entertain.
Pretty much, yeah. I mean, that was the thing. It was, I sort of came into it during that amalgamation of the rave scene where there was just all these different styles. And as I got a little bit older and I started to hit sort of 16 or 17 and coming around that sort of 94, 95 period, then it's when everything started to sort of splinter off.
Yeah.
And yet house music went this way and techno went this way.
Same thing here. Exact same thing. It's about the
and we
same
all started
timeline.
becoming house heads and techno heads,
yeah.
and
So there was
Yeah.
that stigma came along, but because of sort of Northern Ireland and the harder styles were kind of popular there, everybody was playing it. But I was starting to get sort of turned. My head was being turned by like people like Mr. Wazo and that different sort of that French kind of sound. And then
Yeah.
then I discovered Todd Terry Keep On Jumping.
Yeah. That was huge here.
That Keep On
Every
Jumping
rave you
track.
went to?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Keep On Jumping came on, and I just went, okay, this.
I can do this.
we are still playing
Yeah.
that to this day too.
Yeah, I think I
that's-
played it the
that's
last
a-
time I played here.
I think
So,
by law,
yeah.
at least somebody has to play it each time they.
Yeah.
play it. Yeah.
Somebody has to play it. But that was kind of the real sort of eye-opening
So another
house
moment.
music track.
Okay. So we're like 17, 18. So
Yep.
this may be an assumption, but I'm assuming like one of the big areas where you're probably wanting to cut your teeth if you're from that area would be Belfast. So is
Yeah.
that correct? Is that something? Did you spend a
think-
lot of time partying and playing there? Or did you have opportunities?
Belfast is a yeah. I wanted to play Belfast.
Okay, you wanted to play
I've only actually ever played 4 gigs in Belfast my whole
Oh
life.
wow.
Yeah.
Okay.
It's more than me.
I mean, I played a load of house parties and stuff, but actual gigs,
Yeah.
I've only played about 4 in Belfast.
Okay.
Bangor, our local scene was more the thing, but
Yeah.
at that stage, by that stage, I wanted out.
Okay.
I didn't want to be in Northern Ireland anymore.
Okay.
you were about what, like 19 at
I
this
was
time?
I was like 17, 18 at the time.
Okay.
Are you still in school?
I just moved out of home, and I left school at 16.
Okay.
Okay.
I just moved out of home. I was working in a coffin factory. I was making coffins.
Coffins. Okay.
Yeah. I was
Oh,
building
wow.
coffins, and
And how many times you look at those coffins and go, we could fit 2 turntables and
dude, the amount of times that I had the varnish on that coffin, and a track would come on the radio,
Yeah.
and I would just draw the turntables with my fingers, and just that was a regular occurrence. But yeah, I was doing that to make a bit of money, and I just moved out of
Wanted
home,
out. Okay.
and I wanted out, and then I heard Ibiza calling.
Oh wow. Okay.
And
ooh.
That was
I
it.
want to hear this story.
Yeah, it was
All right,
just-
so,
it was-
yeah, let's dig into this one.
So it was around sort of February. There was a TV show on Sky TV in the UK called Ibiza Uncovered.
And we're 17, 18 years old, right?
17, 18 years old.
Okay.
Ibiza Uncovered, and it was kind of like one of the first reality kind of shows where they were in Ibiza with an 1840 rep group. So it was a bit more, it wasn't as ravey as but I got a look at Ibiza and I went, wait, Manumission holds 10,000 people.
Yeah.
Eden holds 6,000. What?
You're like, what? This, yeah.
Well,
okay.
yeah, I need to go here. So it was kind of around February, and I'd heard that the season started around March. If you wanted to get a job, you had to get there in March before everything opened.
Okay.
I didn't get a chance to get there. I didn't get there until July. I arrived out there just after my birthday, and
So you're 18.
18 years old,
Okay.
legally allowed to drink, and because it's 18 there.
So
Yeah.
you just sold everything you had and just kind of
Kind of everything that I had that I wanted to keep, I just moved back into my mom's house.
like those records I need to go get.
Like those records you need to go get, yeah. And then I just went, and I just spent the rest of the summer there, just sort of bobbing jobs. Basically, I was selling drinks tickets outside bars.
Okay.
I was just doing everything I could just to make rent and stay there and party.
Yeah.
Apart from that, I don't remember much else because
As you should.
yeah, I
Awesome.
mean, I had discovered sort of party drugs earlier on in life.
Okay.
Sort of around sort of 14, 15. They
Is
were
this in
very-
moderation, or does this have a pretty big impact in a negative way and maybe setting you back some?
I think at the time we were taking a lot of acid. So a young teenager taking acid at the time probably wasn't good.
Probably wasn't. Yeah.
You weren't by yourself, man.
But I wasn't by myself. But anyway.
I think it's hard to talk about the scene, the culture, and everything without
Yeah.
mentioning that. And for some of us, it was a fun time.
Yeah.
And we moved on. And some of us, we also
We lost a lot of people along the way.
Yeah, we did,
And
we
it's
did.
it's hard to separate that though.
Yeah,
that
I mean,
was
it's-
we all want to say it doesn't exist or it's all about the music, but
Yeah.
that's part of it. That was part of it.
Very much so.
Just like the '60s in rock and roll. There's that. When it comes to music and any creative anything, there's always people going to want to tweak their brains, and sometimes some of us survived and some of us didn't.
Yeah, well, that's the thing as well. It was kind of, there was the whole stigma of ecstasy and acid and all that kind of stuff along with the rave scene, and you had we had the older generation. Oh, you can't, you shouldn't be taking drugs and blah 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 blah. And then they're sitting listening to their Johnny Cash record, and I'm just like,
Yeah.
okay,
You're not selling me on it, bro.
yeah.
So we're in Ibiza. So like, how's this drug usage goes?
Kevin, that's Ibiza.
Ooh.
All right. Hey, I'm blowing it. Okay.
Hey, no. It's
You're in
whatever
that eye place.
It's whatever you want to call it.
I'm
It's whatever you
cultured.
want to call it.
I'm
whatever you wanna call
cultured.
it.
See, I'm not cultured. So we're over there.
Yeah.
So like, so you're over there. You're partying a lot.
Partying a lot.
Okay. Are you making a lot of connections? or what's
Yeah,
going
I
on?
mean, it was one of those things where it was kind of, if you'd been on the island for any amount of time and you'd been working there for any amount of time,
Yeah.
you kind of got to know everyone.
Okay.
Because it was.
What is this,
it's-
like late '90s?
This is 99.
Okay.
So it's like everybody on the island knew each other.
Okay.
San Antonio and Ibiza Town
Yeah.
were the two places where all the big clubs were.
Okay.
So that's where everybody worked. Outside of that, it was like, holiday resorts and vineyards and things like that.
Yeah.
But these were the party towns. So if you lived in San Antonio, you kind of knew everyone.
Okay.
Oh, yeah, they worked at the Viper. They worked at Eden.
Did you say
they
San Antonio?
San Antonio,
There's a San Antonio there?
yeah. San Antonio, Ibiza.
Do they like wear the cowboy hats and the boots and stuff?
No. I think that's probably where San Antonio, Texas got the name from.
I think we need to go out there and teach them about wearing cowboy boots. But go ahead.
Yeah, but yeah, that was kind of the thing. Everybody kind of got to know each other, and it was kind of, we saw it the summer. I came home at the end of the summer and kind of.
Were you playing over there at all? I mean, did you get any opportunities? Did you have turntable access? Or?
I played a couple of parties,
Okay.
but I never got to actually play anywhere until I went back out the second season.
Were you okay with not playing though? Were you there just for the experience, or I mean,
I was there to party.
Yeah,
I was there to party.
Well,
that was it.
Did you enjoy yourself?
Yes.
But
What I can
also,
remember, yes.
that influence that from so what I remember from that time was that was when it was really blowing up.
Yeah.
That
was huge.
area was synonymous.
That
for,
was
like,
huge.
Some of the greatest places you could ever go for any type of especially the rave music. But that had to influence you big when you came back.
Oh, big time. I mean, it kind of changed the sound I was listening to because I was very much into the house thing.
Yeah.
But that's when sort of the trance thing really, like Paul
That
Van Dyke
Digweed, Sasha and all,
Sasha
yeah.
and Digweed, all those guys. Tim O'Mass and Judge Jules and all those sort of kind of people.
Gosh, I haven't listened to Judge Jules for
Tim O'Mass sort of like Tim O'Mass dropped Doom's Night for the first time in Eden Ibiza.
Okay.
And I heard it and went, holy shit, what's this noise? It was just so different to
The one you've
anything.
been exposed to.
Yeah, and I was just like, whoa, this is madness.
We're talking what, like you say, 2000?
99, 2000,
99,
yeah.
2000.
And I was kind of like that whole...
The progressive thing was starting to take off too, I guess.
It was huge, yeah. There was so many of those sort of things, and you had on the island...
Don't be splitting up the genres too soon. It was still just trance, house, and techno.
But it was...
EDM wasn't even invented yet.
EDM...
Anyway, so
Anyway.
back on track.
So on the island you had like the different places and the different nights doing their different things. And it was kind of like, I went to Manumission, which is a privilege in Ibiza, which is like the biggest club on the island.
Okay.
And for anybody that's unfamiliar with it, at that time, Manumission would run on a Monday night and they would have a live sex show.
Live sex?
Live sex show, yes. So basically, the people that ran it, Claire,
Are they
and
still
what
doing
was-
this?
Not anymore. They still run the club though. But they would do these big elaborate like live sex shows.
So
you would
hedonism going.
basically madness.
Yeah.
This place was huge. So you would walk in as if we were here. You would walk in on like a balcony and it went down. And when you look down, there's a massive swimming pool in the middle of it, and a DJ at the edge of the swimming pool. There's a huge stage over on the left.
How's the sound system? Just phenomenal.
Who cares?
Unreal.
Sex.
And just a wall of windows at the back,
Okay.
so that when the sun comes up in the morning, you can see it.
Yeah.
Like, that's one of the most crazy things in the world. But there's a full-size airplane hanging from the ceiling, and it's all the biggest DJs in the world. Like, you name them, they're there.
They're there.
You have Kylie Minogue and P. Diddy partying in the VIP room.
Yeah.
Like, this place was just crazy. And when it went nuts, There's people bungee jumping from the ceiling.
Yeah.
Just absolute madness and craziness. And,
Do you think that just seems like something that would just break me? Like,
that was...
it's it's like going to heaven and going, okay, that was really cool, but now I got to go back to Knoxville.
Yeah. Well, it was. I think that was the one thing about there was when you leave there, when you would leave Manumission on a Monday. It was Monday night. Tuesday morning, 8 o'clock, Space started.
Yeah.
So you leave Manumission and go straight to Space, like.
So you're partying all.
I'm curious.
Yeah,
I'm
it's
curious. Are you kind of disappointed that you didn't do the sexual bungee jumping stuff at your prom when you did that? I think that would have been great.
Yeah, that would have been fun, man. Yeah. I don't know if the teachers would have been down for that, but.
Yeah.
Anyway.
But yeah, it was really an eye opener to what could be achieved.
Yeah.
Really, yes, sex shows and all that's cool, it's whatever.
Yeah.
But I could look at that room and go, oh my god, like this is just pure joy.
This is possible. This
Yeah.
is yeah.
And that place as well not only had the main room of Manumission, you also had another room off that called Trade, which was a big gay club in London, and that was another place that I kind of fell in love with house music because it was I got to experience it, kind of in its
That inclusiveness.
in its home world, if that makes sense.
Yeah.
House, like, for people that don't know, house music was born out of the disco scene, the underground sort of gay scene in Chicago.
Yeah.
And it was interesting because my experience with gay people was very limited.
Yeah.
Where I grew up as well, you just couldn't be.
Yeah.
That
wasn't something that
it just wasn't cool.
Yeah.
So again, this opened my eyes to a lot more things,
Yeah.
and it was kind of like I was like, okay, well, why am I not just here all the time? And then I kind of it was one of those things where I was like, I just wanted to be there. So when I went home, I was depressed.
So it's the end of the summer. You're back in Northern Ireland, and you said you come back a second season, and that's when you started to get some gigs. So.
Yeah. So I went back, and some of the people that I knew there. They had brought new people in, and one of the guys was a DJ, and he had brought turntables with him.
Yeah, yeah.
And there was 6 of us lived in the house, so we were DJing a lot, and we were having parties, and that's when people started to go, oh well, you should come and play at our party. And then all of a sudden, I'm playing beach parties, and I never got to play any of the big clubs.
Yeah.
I never got to play Manumission. I got to play the Garden of Eden, which is like their little VIP. Outside section, but I never got to play any of the really big clubs, which I'm thankful for in a way, because I got to play some really, really cool parties.
Yeah.
And I got to meet some really, really cool people.
When you're saying really cool parties, are these at maybe some of the smaller venues, or are these at people, like, are we talking like house
parties, hotels, beaches, all sorts of
So your name's getting around the island, though.
Yeah, I mean, at the time, I didn't even really have a name. I was just going by, it was just Chris. That was it.
Yeah, Chris from Ireland.
Chris from Ireland.
Surround Sound wasn't discovered yet?
No, Surround Sound's actually super new. And then sort of, because I used to love dancing as well.
Yeah,
like
same here. That's how I got into it, was through dancing.
In the middle of DJ sets, I was just like, this song's amazing. It's 8 minutes long. I'm going to dance with people. And I would go out and everybody started calling me Chris the Dancer.
I do that too, man.
Yeah, Chris the Dancer. And then Chris the Dancer sort of stuck. And when I come home, then it was kind of like I started to go with, I was kind of, let's make it cool and shorten it to CTD. What does that stand for? Chris the Dancer.
Yeah.
So I had the Chris the Dancer moniker for a long time.
Yeah.
And that was kind of my vibe. I danced and I played music. But yeah, and kind of went back and played those parties and things. And then that was kind of the second year, about August. I'd been there 4 months, and I had just partied myself into oblivion. And
how old were you at this time?
How's this drug usage going too?
It's pretty hardcore by this stage. Yeah, by this stage, I'm kind of just. I'm just eating
It's
handfuls
not
of
a
ecstasy.
long-lasting thing, man. It's
it's
a short.
Yeah, I kind of burnt myself out, and I moved home. And then,
how old were you at this time?
I was 20.
Okay.
I moved home. My girlfriend got pregnant. I had to get serious. I had to get a real job.
Today, or?
No.
Okay,
You know, I had to get serious, get a real job.
Yeah.
And the DJing kind of took a back page for about a year or two.
Okay.
Just until sort of, you know, my kid, he was like 6 months old, and one of my buddies said, "Hey, I'm having a party. Do you want to come DJ?"
Yeah.
I'm like, "I haven't DJed in ages, man." He says, "Oh, you should come along, man. It'll be fun."
Yeah.
And I was like, "All right." And I
lit
went
the
back,
fire.
and that was it.
Yeah.
That was it. It was lit again, and I was just like, right, okay, I need to be doing this again. And I started playing more and more parties, and that was just sort of
So at this time, you're still doing it on turntables, right? Like
still doing it on turntables. Yeah, there was talk of digital and CDs, and
the CDs.
Pioneer had dropped like the CDJ 100, and
Yeah.
and it was kind of like, no, we're not messing with that.
Yeah.
We play records.
These damn kids these days.
They're pretty
digital.
shaky, those early model ones too, though. They weren't.
Yeah, they weren't great. Not until sort of the 500.
Yeah.
The 500 was the
But
first
it's the first
one.
one that was, yeah.
It was the first one that came along with the master tempo as well.
Yeah.
So that when you changed the pitch, it didn't change the key.
Yeah.
They were the first to have that. But yeah, that's
later.
That's later. So yeah, I got into that kind of thing, and I was just going around Ireland, playing at different places, and just playing loads of parties, and just anywhere I could get a gig. I didn't really care about the money.
Yeah.
It was just sort of, I want to play here. And
Just wanna play.
Did you make it out
Just wanna
to
play.
like London or any other kind of like European areas?
I did a few gigs in Scotland, and I lived in the south of England for a while, in and around Portsmouth, and I played around there. Never played in London. Would love to.
Was it just really hard to get a London gig? Or just,
I think just London is kind of that's kind of like London is New York, you know, in a sense where, you know, the chances of me playing Brooklyn Mirage,
right. Yeah.
maybe one day if I meet the right person and at the right time.
So you still kind of just kind of tooling around Ireland and
Pretty much, man.
doing all this
Yeah,
stuff.
and I was happy.
Yeah.
You know,
Were you still?
Because it's not
were you
like
kinda
here, when you're playing these clubs, I mean, people are appreciating what
Yeah.
you're doing. You're having, you know, the time of your life, probably.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's-
I'm curious
Yeah.
about this time around 2021. You know, you're kind of like cutting back on, getting faded with everybody and just kind of just doing your music and
Yeah.
being the dad and all that stuff. And so that is, when you look back on that, is that kind of the more kind of happier times? Kind of where you kind of balance out,
yeah.
or what?
I think there's a lot of stuff happened around that time.
Yeah.
And I think the whole sort of crash in Ibiza and coming home and then having the kid, it was kind of a wake up call.
Yeah.
It was kind of like you can't just go out and take ecstasy every night and,
Yeah.
and party. It's just not doable.
Shit, I don't know. I'm on IC right now.
I kind of got wise a little bit and got serious, and then sort of when me and his mum split up, it gave me a bit more freedom.
Yeah.
Just to go and move around a bit, and then I moved to sort of Donegal.
What is this? What is
So
Donegal?
Donegal is in the northwest of Ireland.
Okay.
It's kind of like, it's still like, there's still horses running around wild,
Yeah.
kind of
Okay,
thing.
okay.
But one of the biggest party cities in the country, Letterkenny,
Okay.
is in Donegal. So I had moved up to actually a place called Bundoran, which is in the south of Donegal. I was playing a little club there, and it's a super big surf town, and I'd kind of got into surfing a little bit.
Cool.
And it was super nice to be there, but I would go up and play in Buncrana and Letterkenny and the clubs up there, and I was having fun up there. And then I met a lady called Maura Logue, who ran a thing called the Wavelength Centre.
Wavelengths, okay.
And it was like a community centre for like disadvantaged kids and things like that. And I was DJing somewhere, and I think her son was at one of the gigs or whatever.
Okay.
And I'd been talking to him, and he said, "Have you ever thought about teaching?"
Teaching, okay.
Yeah. And I says, "No." He said, "Would you be up for it?" And I says, "Well, I've never thought about it."
Where are we talking about teaching here?
Well, that was teaching music or
Teaching,
DJing,
okay.
like dance music and things like that.
Okay,
So,
okay.
he says, "Look, I'd love you to speak with my mum, blah, 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 whatever." So I met with Maura, and we sat down and we talked about the DJing side of things. And obviously that was going to be super hard because I had one set of turntables and there's like
Yeah.
25 kids. It's hard to teach a lot, on one set of turntables. So we kind of had to think of a different way. And I was still kind of into the dance thing and everything else. And I said, well, let's try and make a program for them where I can teach them a little bit about music production, a little bit
Yeah,
about dance
yeah.
music.
Or
And
you
then-
could just throw a rave.
Yeah, well, we could have done
that. Naked people, though, we remember it forever.
Could do that. But yeah, we did that with dance, and I had a buddy who was like really good at graffiti.
Okay.
And we thought, well, let's put a little thing together for this group where they can come in. So if they're not into the DJing or the production, they might be into the graffiti, they might be into the dancing.
So it's like a whole like urban cultural kind of
Pretty
experience.
much. Well,
yeah.
it became, we called it the Urban Street Initiative.
Okay.
We got I got connected with another couple of DJs from Dublin called Deja 2.
Okay.
Kind of like Deja Vu, but with the 2 on the end, because
Okay.
there's 2 of them. And we started to put this program together, and it went off really well in Donegal. And actually, speaking of raves, we actually turned their local place into a full-on party for the night.
Nice.
We had the dancers doing their thing. We had like some of the production stuff was being played.
Yeah.
We had live, graffiti and stuff.
Yeah.
And DJing and all that kind of stuff. And it really took off. And all of a sudden, we were being booked for other groups around
Very
Ireland.
cool.
Did that feel really different than like, when you're doing like raves for kids who are there to rave, or kids who are there to party, or kids, people are, already kind of introduced to it or seeking it out, to where now you are basically creating the next generation.
Yeah, it was.
Did it feel different? Like, did you get the gravity of that?
No, at the time I didn't. It's only sort of in recent times I've kind of been able to look back on some of the stuff I've done and went, well, that was actually that was actually pretty good.
It's a big deal. It's a big deal. Yeah.
And even today, I got a message from Maura about a year ago saying that one of the girls that had started in our class had just opened her own dance school.
How cool is that?
And she had learned to dance at our thing,
yeah,
So it was kind of like that kind
Wow,
of. I kind of went,
his life.
wow.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
because of that, this girl is.
I mean, those are real legacies.
Yeah, and I mean that
To influence, you
yeah.
made a difference. You
And
made it matter.
they're the kind of things that I'm actually proud of. They're the kind of like, whatever, I can DJ in front of 15,000 people, I can release a track and this person can play it. But those kind of things, looking back, I can go, I actually made a difference. I did something worthwhile.
And
Well,
how
you think
long did that
about
last?
That actually lasted for a while. We did that for about a year, and then we actually I got connected with a group called Border Horizons, who did they did a lot of cross community work. So in Northern Ireland, they would take groups of Catholic children and Protestant children and bring them together.
Okay.
Conflict resolution. This was long after the peace process, but there was still that stigma.
Yeah.
So it was a way of bringing them together. They were always trying to find all these programs. Excuse me. Whether it was soccer or music or art or whatever it was, to bring the communities together.
Yeah.
And they asked us, would we bring the program to Derry? You know Derry Girls. Letterkenny's about 10 miles from Derry. So the show Derry Girls, I've spent a lot of time around there. Actually, the place where they did the end of season 2, I've actually DJ'd in that square. But
Nice.
but yeah, so we were going into Derry and we were doing this cross-border work, and we were sort of, the little kids that wouldn't play with each other because he's a Catholic, he's a Protestant, blah, blah, blah.
Yeah.
And we were bringing them together through sort of dance music.
Yeah.
And
Well, I was going to say, the dance music influenced you to leave your influence and grow with that.
Yep.
And now here you are, like, kind of given that gift.
yeah, it's like a full
To a
circle
whole,
kind of thing.
yeah, that's pretty cool.
So yeah, that was super successful, and we got picked up actually by those guys, and they work with the UN.
Okay.
So we took the program to Cyprus in 2006.
So tell us, what is Cyprus? You got to understand, we like a lot of these.
Okay.
We have no idea.
What are you doing giving us all this
Yeah,
geography
so
lessons tonight?
Cyprus is a little island off the south coast of Turkey.
Turkey. So this is big.
In the Mediterranean, yeah.
Okay.
And it's owned by Greece. But like Northern Ireland, the north half of the island is owned by the Turkish, and the south half is owned by the Greeks. And then there's a 1 mile no man's land across the island that's the UN look after, because the Turkish invaded in 1977 saying this is our island.
Yeah.
And there's been that whole thing with them. So we brought our program.
It's kind of like Gary, Indiana.
So basically, I mean, I wasn't getting how big of a deal this really is. You're talking like, other countries are looking at what you're doing and be like, hey, can you bring this to us? This is, we can unite people. And
so it was kind of the work we were doing with the cross-border thing, and it was
this is pretty big.
There was a lot of work happening in Northern Ireland at the time through conflict resolution that was getting a lot of attention.
Yeah.
And there was a lot of grant money there, and there was a lot of things there. So they were doing this work out in, what they would do is they would take these kids to Cyprus,
Okay.
and they would give them jobs. In
We're talking about
different
kids like
communities.
what, like 15, 16?
Yeah, no, well, for me, that's sort of at the time they're sort of like 18, 19, and they had to be old enough to travel by themselves and stuff.
Young adults.
Yeah.
So that basically
Technically.
we'd take them out there. They would get jobs and stuff, and then the program that we had, some of the kids would help us with the program, helping wrangling other kids, and we would have interpreters and things like that. And it was super successful out there, and kind of we did that thing, and then I just decided I was kind of like, okay, it's time to go home, you know. Then started September 2007, things took a bit of a turn.
Okay.
I came home and I was home for 2 weeks, and I was diagnosed with testicular cancer.
Oh man. Okay.
So that was kind of another
It's big. Yeah.
another big sort of shocker, eye opener kind of
yeah,
thing. 6 months of intensive treatment, came through on the other side, thankfully,
Thank God,
and I'm
yeah.
still here talking to you guys.
Yeah.
I mean, testicular cancer is not a big thing, but not as big as it used to be.
You're like hanging out with like two dudes, and you're saying, messing with your balls is not a big thing. No, it's a big deal.
Although it's a big. It's not. It's not.
crazy.
It's not like prostate or anything.
Right, but
I mean,
anytime you get the C word,
anything with the C word
it's
it's scary. You
Yeah,
know.
yeah.
So I that 6 months of was kind of a real. It was like a time of introspection,
Yeah.
kind of thing for me, because there was a lot of things I had to consider and
Yeah, absolutely.
and everything else, and everything else
I
just
mean,
got
even
pushed
by
back.
that time, you've already lived a full life. If you think about it,
Yeah. So I'm just sort of thinking around all that kind of thing, and it was kind of like I got the all clear on the 11th of July,
Okay.
and that was kind of like 6 days after my birthday, and it was kind of like, all right. I was in Donegal, I was in Letterkenny, and I called my mate and I just went, let's do it. And he went, what? I said, let's go. And he's, what do you mean? I'm like, call Pierce, call Anthony, get a big bag of stuff, let's go. And I just partied that weekend and then got it out of my system.
Okay.
I had a mad weekend just pure hedonism.
This
Yeah.
is not where I thought we were gonna go. I thought
Yeah.
we were gonna now you're like, fuck it, let's just go party our butts off. Yeah, all right, I'm done with that.
Yeah, and it was like 3 days of just taking drugs, and then I recovered for a week and got my head back together, and sort of that's when I was like, all right, I need to really sort of get my shit together, really.
Yeah. So get it out of my system.
Yeah.
Probably that was an eye opener. You just thought about your whole life and like
That was
the
the
meaning
thing.
of everything. Yeah. So,
Yeah, so it was kind of one of those things as well, and I wasn't seeing my kid as much.
Yeah.
How old was your kid at the time?
My kid at the time, he was like 7,
Yeah.
Oh,
and I
thinking about C and all that stuff. And,
well, the problem with it was with the treatment and everything else, I'd lost a lot of weight, and I'll have to show you pictures sometimes. There might be some on my Facebook from that time, of around sort of 2007, 2008, where
What
I
kind
was
of treatment? Because I need, some help. I've been trying everything.
man, and I had dropped. I was like 135 pounds.
Wow.
Oh wow.
So I was like,
Jeez.
I was really sort of pushing it.
Yeah.
Look like Christian Bale in the.
Yeah, the machinist. So I was kind of like, okay, and I wanted to get away from everything. So I spoke to my child's mother and everything else, and she was in the process of getting remarried, or married.
Married.
We were never married. She was in the process of getting married or whatever, and I kind of thought, okay.
Yeah.
I moved to England, south of England, sort of like a fresh start kind of thing.
Yeah.
And going back and forward home, it like a flight from London to Belfast is like an hour. It's really not that far,
Right.
So getting back and forth wasn't a problem. So I'd moved to Portsmouth. It was kind of like another fresh start,
Yeah.
so to speak. And I bounced around there for a while. I played a couple of open mics. I was playing guitar and singing a bit. I was DJing a little bit. I wasn't really doing anything much.
Yeah.
And then I got bored with England. I just didn't like the south of England. The people weren't very nice.
Okay.
It just didn't feel like home. And I moved home, and I met another DJ, a guy called Don. He was more of a producer than a DJ,
Okay.
but he was into dubstep.
Okay.
And this is like 2008, 2009.
Oh no.
Dubstep was new.
No.
Dubstep was just new, and I was like, whoa, this is fucking wild. Like,
Yeah, it's
whoa.
different. Yeah,
And
what
he
is
was,
this?
let me in, like, this was when dubstep was good. Not
Yeah.
like it is now.
That
You
was
know what I
before
mean?
the wub up.
This is like back in the early days when it was like Cookie Monster and all those guys.
Oh, yeah.
And it was like, so I speaking to him, and he was like, I'd love to get a night going, but it was still very much a London thing with the dubstep,
Yeah.
kind of like the DMB thing was early days.
Yeah. Absolutely.
And he says, do you want he was like, look, I know a guy has a bar in Belfast. Like, he's going to let us use it
Okay.
if we want to throw a party. And I went, cool.
Let's do it.
So we threw the first dubstep night in Belfast.
Oh wow, the very first one.
Very
you built.
first one.
How cool is that?
In the oldest bar in Belfast, White Cellar, it's called.
Yeah.
Is Aphrodite there?
No. She's in Cyprus.
Hope you're invited. Or influenced.
But yeah, so we started running these dubstep parties on a Thursday night in White's Tavern in the cellar thing. And it ran for a couple of months, and then he went off and did his. He went to.
How many people are we talking? Is it getting in pretty good?
We were. I mean, it held 200 people. And
Okay.
we were filming it every week.
Yeah. So it's a good little party.
So it was a good little party. Then we got on with one of the first sort of online streaming platforms.
Okay.
Was a Dutch thing called Lime Booth.
Lime booth.
Lime Booth.
Okay.
It was run by a couple of Dutch guys. They sponsored us. We ran a couple of nights. We ran a couple of after parties for the big Belsonic parties in Belfast.
Okay.
Excuse me, Belsonic is kind of like down in the city centre. They build a big stage and they bring in like big name, like they had the Foo Fighters and the
Yeah.
Black Keys and all that kind of stuff. And the night that we were running our thing, Plan B, who's a UK singer, drum and bass kind of guy.
Okay.
He was headlining the Thursday night at Belsonic, so we had the official after party.
Okay.
We were trying to get him there, but he wouldn't come.
Yeah. Gotcha.
But yeah, so that kind of sort of did its thing for a while, and then Don he moved away. He moved to Scotland. I kind of just.
When you say for a while, what are we talking?
I think we went for about 6 months, 8 months. Yeah,
6 to 8 months.
Didn't
Okay.
get quite a year out of it, but I kind of got bored with the dubstep thing.
Yeah.
And I started to go back to house music. And that was kind of my thing. It was sort of my buddy Paul was like, he's a drummer. He was playing a lot of gigs and stuff, and he was like, I was like, I'd love to open a studio, and he was like, oh, why don't you? So we were like, okay, let's do this, and we found this little sort of storage unit place, and we opened this little studio.
Okay.
And it was just this little tiny thing for a while. And
When you say a little studio, is this for production or is
for
this
production, we had two
for
rooms.
yourselves or is it
no,
to
we were bringing.
You're
bands
full on
in. Yeah.
studio for
Full on studio. We were bringing bands in. Paul was
okay.
a session drummer. He'd played all over.
okay.
So we were bringing in bands, and we were.
Okay.
And at the time as well, we were very, very lucky.
Pretty good place to learn too. Probably learned a lot during that time.
Well, we were learning because we were going up to other studios in and around sort of Northern Ireland, and we had the great pleasure of checking out Foy Vance, his studio. He's a big time musician from Northern Ireland.
Cool.
We learned a lot of stuff there.
All right. So you mentioned coming to America. So
Yeah.
you say you did the two. It was successful. So what made you want to move away from that and come to America? First off?
My wife.
Your wife.
So New Year's Eve,
Okay.
2011.
Okay.
Of course, I'm out partying.
Yeah.
On the way home, decided that I saw an American car,
Okay.
and I had a few drinks or whatever. We had found some plastic furniture. We were carrying this home, as you do, and we decided to do.
So you're already half American right there.
Yeah, so we decided to do Starsky and Hutch across this car and land in the chair. And I landed in the chair leg first and blew out my ACL.
Jesus. Okay.
So I'm sort of bedridden for a few weeks, and I'm waiting for my surgery or whatever. And I'm just online, blah, 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 blah. And I was bored. It was like 3 o'clock in the morning. I couldn't sleep. My painkillers weren't really working. And I just clicked on this thing. And I like quizzes. I like to do crosswords, and I like quiz shows. And,
Yeah.
And I've auditioned for a lot of quiz shows as well. Well, that's another story. So I found this little online chat room thing.
Yeah.
But it had quizzes. And I was like, oh, well, this is my kind of... I wasn't really into a chat room thing. I don't want to be talking sexy with people. I just want to go in and just have a bit of crack and some questions and answer some questions.
Yeah. You
So
got a
I-
lot of free time right now. So.
Pretty much, yeah. So I discovered this little thing, and I've been doing it for a couple of weeks or whatever. And it was like 3 o'clock in the morning, and I was bored, and there was nobody in the room. So let's see what other rooms are in this thing. So I clicked on this room, and it was called the UK over 30 room. Let's click on this one. It sounds like my kind of place.
Yeah.
So I'm in here, and I'm just sort of reading things, and I just spot this girl. She'd said something, and somebody else, like all these other people, were just jumping on her.
Yeah.
And I was like, whoa, that's not really, hey, that's not nice kind of thing.
So it's like
Yeah.
Facebook before Facebook.
Pretty much, yeah. It was just like a chat room kind of thing. And I was like, that's not cool. Like, give the girl a break.
Yeah, give her a break. Yeah.
So she sent me a private message and she just said thank you.
Yeah.
That was kind of cool or whatever. So that was fine. A couple of weeks later, I got another message from her,
Yeah.
and I just thought I would say hi.
Yeah.
And we just started chatting, and that was kind of the start of it. She was here and she was working away and blah blah blah, and I was doing my thing over there. And I
So
think
she's American.
she's American, but at the time there was nothing in it. It
Yeah,
was
yeah.
just chatting away.
You didn't even know.
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
We didn't know. We like at Christmas. Oh, Merry Christmas. Oh, Happy Birthday. But nothing
Yeah.
really in it at all. If we were online at the same time, we would have a oh, how's things? How's work?
Yeah,
How are
yeah,
you?
yeah.
Blah blah blah. Well, when I did my knee, I had more time and I was chatting away, and we started to chat more.
Yeah.
And she told me she was going speed dating,
Yeah.
and I was like, oh, that's kind of cool. And then I kind of went, I don't want her to go speed dating. I like talking to her. She gets a boyfriend and I can't talk to her.
Yeah, that's not
and
cool.
then it was kind of like, oh, and then she started asking me the speed dating questions.
Yeah.
I was like, well, run the questions by me and let's get you some practice. She was nervous.
Yeah.
That's when it kind of
Yeah.
Clicked.
she then said the following night she went to the speed dating thing and didn't like anyone because she wanted to come home and talk to me. So we started talking things and whatever, and things progressed.
Yeah.
And I found out she was a hairstylist, and she had her business here, and we had the studio and things. And it was kind of it came, and I was like, I need to change the scenery. I need to get out of here. And she was like, well, why don't you come for a visit?
Yeah.
Come over and check it out. See what you think.
Where's she at?
She's in Florida at the time,
Okay.
and I'm like, okay, I'll come over and I'll check it out. Cool. September 11th, 2013.
Wow.
I make the flight to America. I'm held at TSA for 7 hours
Yeah, right.
because I brought some bread. I brought some Irish bread for her to try.
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
And the TSA guy just wasn't buying that story, so I was held it by TSA.
Oh man.
Why are you bringing bread?
You
Because
get your bread back?
I got my bread back. Yeah, I
Okay,
got my bread
okay.
back. Yeah. So
Well, you didn't know about the great, bread crisis at that time.
no.
Yeah.
But it was Irish bread, and it's bread you can't get here, so it was whatever. But that was it. Yeah, that was my I came over here on September 11th, 2013, and it was whirlwind. It really was whirlwind.
That's awesome.
We
You
got
lived in Florida.
We lived in Florida. Well, here's the thing. I was due to fly home I was here on a visa that it was the visa waiver program. So you can go anywhere in the world for 90 days without a
Okay.
visa. So my 90 days was almost up. And her friends, like we had completely fallen in love. Like I didn't want to come home. She didn't want me to fly home.
Yeah.
We were looking into sort of extending my visa and all that kind of stuff. And then her friends kind of said like we were along in the relationship, like the point of us getting to come there and see her, it wasn't just I'm going to come and see if we like each other. Like we genuinely had a connection.
Yeah.
He needs to say all this stuff for legal purposes as we move forward here.
So her friends actually kidnapped me one night. Her friend told her that he needed help with a catering gig and he needed somebody
Yeah.
pretty strong to carry the trays. And I was like, yeah, cool, I'll help you do it. No problem.
Yeah,
He
yeah.
took me to her best friend's house. They organized a fucking wedding.
What?
They organized a wedding.
How awesome
behind
is
our
that?
A wedding
back.
for you?
A wedding for me and Kimmy.
Did you know you were getting married?
I was like, wait, what? You want us to get married? And I was like, we had the conversation
Yeah.
not the conversation. Oh, do you want to get married? It was kind of like, do you ever think about getting married?
Yeah.
And obviously that thing, and then her friends were like, look, she's going to love this. This is going to be amazing. Blah 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 blah.
This sounds like a movie.
Yeah, well, I mean, it kind of is.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So they go and we do this thing, and we have to lure her into. Her friend is a what do you call those? A notary.
Yeah,
so
notary.
she can do the wedding or whatever.
Yeah.
We lure her into our friend's restaurant in Florida.
Okay.
And all of our friends are there. Kimmy has just finished work. She has got the flu. She wanted to go home.
Yeah.
Like she was like, I'm tired. I just want to go home. We're trying to lure her to this restaurant in the pretense that it's our friend's anniversary party. Mm-hmm. So when we got there was a couple of her friends that those friends didn't know, and she was like, "Why is Chase here?
Wow.
He doesn't know them."
Yeah, something's weird.
There's something weird going on, and everybody was like, "Surprise! It's a wedding." So I'm like, "We're getting married," and she's like, "Okay."
Wow.
Yeah. So we got married on the 16th of November,
What year are we talking now?
2013.
2013.
So literally
Yeah.
2 months after I arrived.
Oh my god.
Nice.
Yeah. And then
Was this your plan all along to become an American citizen?
No, I mean my plan was to come over and check it out. I was
Yeah.
only the original plan was for me to come here and be here for 3 weeks.
Yeah.
I was only going to come for a couple of weeks and go home.
Yeah.
But I ended up staying.
Have you been here ever since?
I've been here since.
Yeah.
We overstayed my visa. We had all that hassle with the lawyers and shit with that.
Now, before you moved here and when you got married and that stuff with your wife, who you're with today, how was she about you being a DJ, the music scene, and that kind of thing? Is she pretty supportive of that? And
yeah, she loves it.
She digs it.
Yeah, she's about it. I mean,
so you guys kind of relate with that.
She's one of the most open and easygoing people I've ever met. And if I want to do something, she's always there to support it.
That's awesome.
It's that's why I stayed. That's why I'm still here.
So you're in Florida, so are you getting involved with the Florida scene with like doing music?
I wasn't really doing anything much. I was hosting an open mic night.
Okay.
I wasn't really DJing much.
Yeah, you're involved with music, but not really.
Yeah, there isn't really any of a scene.
Yeah.
There in Inverness, Florida.
Yeah.
It's a retirement town.
Gotcha.
Most of Kimmy's sort of clients at the time were retirees, and it's that kind of.
You're not going to throw down some gabber from the old people, you never know.
No. But what I did again, I started getting into sort of community work, something I'm very big on.
Yeah.
If I move to somewhere, if I'm going to live somewhere, I want to contribute. So I got involved with the community, and we started doing some parties and things, and then we started doing stuff, a local thing with the local government. We would host parties at the end of the year called the Schools Out Rock the Park, and we would turn the park into just a big party.
How cool is that?
And it was myself, and we had a local radio station involved. DJ Trey, who was on the local radio station, everybody knew him. And we did this kind of...
what kind of music's being played at this?
A bit of everything, because it's kids from 5 to, But we set it up as a versus battle kind of thing, and it was me versus Trey. Everybody knew Trey. So it was kind of almost like a wrestling thing. He was the face, I was the heel. Yeah. Nobody knew who I was.
Yeah,
we had the
evil outsider from another country.
Coming in and I'm coming in to beat your DJ and all this kind of stuff. And it was so much fun.
I see that consistency of everything you're involved with is about that entertaining, like not just showing up and playing music, but entertaining the whole thing.
Yeah, it has to be. It's always been. I think that's the early influence of Queen, and watching them put on shows and see those things, that it wasn't just them playing music.
Right.
Like Freddie Mercury was the ultimate frontman. It was always theatre.
Yeah.
And for me, that was my introduction to music. So I think sort of in my head, that's always been the picture, that it should be more than just what you hear. It has to be everything.
An experience.
Yeah.
Build that culture.
Pretty much, yeah.
How long were you in Florida?
I was in Florida for 5 years.
Okay. What pulled you away from being there?
Everything.
Yeah, everything.
Everything Florida. It just, Kimmy's...
You don't want to become Florida man?
I was very close to becoming Florida man. If I stayed there any longer, I probably would have been.
Yeah. Get off my line. Yeah.
The heat just isn't... I'm Irish.
Yeah.
The heat is just not good for us.
Yeah.
So we wanted something a bit more temperate. We had actually... we had visited Knoxville.
Yeah.
And we had gone up to see her mother. She's originally from Akron.
Yeah.
Excuse me again.
You're fine.
So we'd gone up to visit her mother, and it was 8.5 hours from Akron to here.
Yeah.
And 8.5 hours from here to Inverness, in Florida. So it turned out that one of Kimmy's really close high school friends had moved to Maryville.
Oh, okay.
So we thought, we'll stop in Knoxville, we'll stop off and see Becky, we'll stay the night, we'll get an Airbnb, we'll check out Knoxville, and then we'll go home.
Yeah.
We came to Knoxville. We stayed with a Knoxville native, Mr. Niles Horry.
Okay.
Everybody knows Niles, I think. He had an Airbnb for traveling musicians.
Okay.
We had seen it on Airbnb, and went, that's the place we need to stay.
We're going to stay at. Okay.
We met Niles. Niles introduced us to Knoxville.
Yeah.
And we fell in love with it.
Oh, very cool.
It was a Tuesday night. They were doing the jazz on the square.
Oh, yeah. So good.
It was amazing, and we just went, wow. And then when we got back to Florida, we were waiting for her stepdaughter to get out of high school.
Yeah.
She was planning on going to university. She was going to go to New York or whatever, and we were like, well, Knoxville's a bit closer. We had looked at a couple of places. We looked at Portsmouth up in, or Manchester in New Hampshire.
Okay.
And Portland and a couple of other places. But Knoxville was kind of, we'd been here, we knew a couple of people. We kind of like, okay, this is the spot.
Okay, great.
So, we fell in love with Knoxville. About a year later, we saw an ad for a house coming up.
Okay.
And we went, let's have a look at that. And we messaged the girl, and she was like, there's like 6 or 7 people ahead of you. We were like,
really
oh,
good.
that's cool.
Okay.
But about a week later, she messaged and said it's down to 2 people. You're still on the list if you still want to be on the list. We were like, yeah, cool.
Yeah.
Another week went past. She messaged and said, do you want to come and look at the house?
Oh my gosh.
So like from April to the 1st of June, 1st of June, Kimmy and my stepdaughter, they came up and looked at the house.
When you say 1st of June, is this last year?
No, this is 2018.
2018. So okay.
Yeah. So they come up here. They checked it out, said we love the house, we love the area. Let's move. We moved in on August 1st.
Very cool.
So we've been here since then, and that kind of first year was us just trying to find our feet. Kimmy was working at a local salon.
Yeah.
I had discovered the birdhouse.
Yeah.
And we were living just down the road from the birdhouse, and
Yeah.
I'd seen they had Wojo Radio.
Yeah.
I know you were connected with
I
those
did that
guys
for a while. So yeah, the big dudes.
And I met Ratchet,
Yeah.
and I DJ'd on Wojo for a while, and that's actually when Sir Round5ound was born.
Oh wow. Okay.
Because before then I
Ratchet came out to see you the other day, and you had
Yep,
already left.
I'd already left. Yeah. But yeah, I'd met Ratchet, but before that I was going by DJ Redbeard.
Yeah.
Because of the beard, but I was kind of like, that's just stupid.
Yeah.
And then Sir Round5ound was born. A very high night watching Monty Python and Holy Grail.
I was gonna say you have like a lot of knights and medieval kind of thing going on with that.
And it was kind of like we were just messing around, and the first thing that came up was Knights of the Turntable, and I remember this old techno track by a group called Knights of the Turntable.
Yeah.
And they were Knights of the Turntable. So me being Irish, take away the E, the F, and make it Knights of the Turntable.
Oh, okay.
So we were trying to come up with a name, and I couldn't think of anything. And it was a buddy of mine actually went, "What about Sir Round5ound?" And I went, "Google Sir Round5ound." Google Sir Round5ound, and I was spelling it in different ways, and nothing was coming up.
Nice.
And the only thing that came up was Sir Round5ound Entertainment in Canada.
Yeah.
And they're basically a lighting company, lighting and sound tech company. I was like,
Alright, that's
man,
me.
and I was just like, the whole, my whole thing was I was going to be on Wozo, and they have this whole thing where they're all kind of anonymous.
Yeah,
they all have their own names, and that's why I wanted to come up with a good name. They have like Lord Fader, Old Man Ratchet, Crip Chick Dawn, who does the Disability Now show.
Yeah.
I thought it was super cool, so I was like, I need a super cool name.
Yeah.
And I wanted it to be kind of anonymous in a sense. So a lot of my early pictures, if you go back on my Instagram, if they're still there, there's pictures of me crate digging at McKay's.
Yeah.
But I've put like a helmet,
Yeah.
like filter over my head,
Yeah.
so that nobody knew who I was, and I wanted to be this anonymous person. I wanted it just to be an anonymous thing to sit in the background.
Says the 6'2" guy with the huge beard, red beard, but yeah.
Well, okay. Touche. But it was never meant to be. I was kind of just content being the happily married man and playing the odd gig here and there, and then sort of playing on Wozo for a while. It was like, I'm really getting a taste for this.
Getting the itch back.
I was connecting with DJs around the world. I had a guest mix slot on that show every week, and I was starting to get the taste for it again. I was getting different flavors. I was DJs, from Finland, South Africa, all sorts of different sounds, and I was okay. So I need to start playing gigs. Then I started looking at Knoxville, and I was like, okay. So there's not a lot of places for that kind of thing. There was kind of the concourse I'd heard about here.
Yeah.
Ratchet had told me about you guys. He said, "Have you heard of a Kevin or Special K? Have you heard of a Special K?" And I was like, "No." Because I had only moved here. I didn't know anyone.
Yeah.
And then I think my first real connection was through Jupiter 2.
Yeah.
Well,
He's a nice cat.
he's super cool dude. William actually had messaged me and said, "Do you play funk?"
Yeah.
And I said, "I've been known to play a bit of funk, yeah."
Yeah.
And he was running this funk and groove thing at the concourse.
Okay.
So I'd already been doing stuff at the Birdhouse or whatever, and I'd been to a few of the Technox shows and all that kind of stuff.
Yeah.
And I tried to go to the concourse and see what scene, but none of the scenes had really, for me, really.
Yeah, it's not.
The concourse was very sort of dubstep heavy and rock and roll music heavy, and it wasn't really, there wasn't any house music or anything. So I was sort of still looking.
Yeah.
And then obviously I had actually, the pandemic kind of had come in.
Yeah.
And the live stream thing had started, and I'd started working with the charity, and we'll get that out, I guess. But I had connected with Lincoln Hawk,
Yeah.
Through
In Atlanta.
through a
He's
Facebook
very
group.
good cat.
Yeah, through a Facebook group, and I was like, dude, I'm in Knoxville. He says, I'm going to be playing Knoxville soon.
Yeah.
You should come out. So the first night, it was his birthday, I think he was playing here.
Yeah.
And I didn't come out for long. I couldn't stay long.
Yeah.
I wasn't feeling great, and I didn't want to stay out too late. So I came in and I checked it out, and I thought, fuck, this is the place for me. And I went away,
Yeah.
and then I never came back for a while. And then Lincoln was playing again.
Yeah.
And he'd messaged me and say, hey, I'm going to be back in Knoxville again, and myself and the wife come out.
Yeah.
And you were playing out the back.
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
And you were just there and you were rocking. And I was like, all right, yeah, this is the spot. And that was it. I was just like, okay, I need to make a connect. And I think I'd been here a few times, and you'd walk past me so many times.
Yeah.
And I think we'd spoke online a few times.
Yeah.
But and I'm awkward when I first.
Well, I'm the same way.
I'm weird about going up and just introducing myself to people.
I would see you in the corner, Mike, and I was like, "Hey, I think that's that guy. I'm pretty sure it is." And then someone would be like, "Hey, Kevin," and I get sidetracked, and I never got around to talking to you.
So my first kind of connection was actually through Earl.
Yeah.
I had Bill Jupiter 2.
Yeah.
His mother was very ill. He decided to take a break in, and he asked me, did I want to take over the Funk and Groove night at the concourse?
Yeah.
I was like, hey, yeah, I'm up for that.
Yeah.
But then I was like, shit, I didn't know anybody.
Yeah.
But then I kind of connected with Earl a little bit online.
Yeah.
And I messaged Earl and I went, hey man, you want to come and play the Funk and Groove night?
Yeah.
And he was like, hell yeah, I do. And that was it.
That's part of that younger influence that you have. You know, if you think about it, like you constantly, it seems like throughout this whole, discussion, you constantly have this growth, change, you know, but there's a lot of consistency. One of them is, you were also right now, working as working for a charity organization that's influencing through music, and you seem to keep doing that.
Yep.
And we'll ask you about that in a second. But one of the other thing, when a guy comes up to you and goes, "Can you play funk?" You're like, "Yeah," because you're one of those guys who grew up with every sound. I just want to play.
Yeah.
So you can bring that.
I'm
anywhere.
also one of those people that if somebody says, hey, can you play this? I'll say yes, even if I can't, because
Figure it out.
Yeah.
I'll figure it out on the night.
Right,
You know,
right.
it's or
music.
Yeah, I mean, I think I'm comfortable enough where any of like the Midnight Voyage guys could come, the Headroom guys could come, and they could go, hey, we're playing a D&B night, we're doing a dubstep night, we're doing a techno night, we're doing a trance night.
Plus, if you mess up, nothing is going to be as bad as your high school friends making fun of you after the prom. So.
Exactly, man. Exactly. I had a few car crash mixes that night, but I kind of feel comfortable enough with the music that I can sort of just apply myself to it if I need to. But I mean, it's always going to come back to house music. That's always going to be the first.
Yeah.
It's always going to be the one that I sort of, no matter what set I'm playing, it's always going to be house heavy. Yeah. There may be some other influences in there, but it's.
I think if you're at the right place where you can experience house music in the right environment, it's going to leave an imprint on you that's all roads are probably going to lead back to it. Like,
exactly.
So, I don't know if you're in because it's, I think so many people, it's just being at that right place at that right time, and just like you said, like the gay community, just the sound systems and just the camaraderie, and it's special. It's something different from any other.
It has no borders.
You don't see
exactly.
that. I mean, like for
it has
instance,
no religion.
Drum and bass, from like my perception of that, I've always loved drum and bass, but it seems like that seems very it has a macho heavy image. Heavy, the trance. I mean, there's a lot of drugs in that scene. There's drugs in the house music.
Yeah.
But,
wait.
But
there's a lot of drugs in trance.
But you know what I mean. There's just something. It's a little. There's something about it that's a little bit different if you've experienced it the right way.
I think and when you look at all those sort of dance music communities, I think house overall is the overall accepting.
That's it. Yeah.
Everybody's welcome. It's kind of that.
That's
you don't have to put on any. You don't have to put on any front. You don't have to do. We're going to welcome you no matter what you do.
That's it.
Just be yourself.
You can be
Let's
yourself.
Have fun.
You can do, and it's funny because there's a similar kind of scene here in Knoxville with Temple.
Yeah,
that goth industrial scene. They're very open and very welcoming.
Jay's done an amazing thing with
Jay's
that
done a
over
great
the
job with them, and that's kind of my thing. It's kind of like it's for everyone.
Yeah.
It really is for everyone, and I don't like. There's some of the scenes are very elitist.
Elite, yes.
And I just think with house music, it was born from just everybody in a dark room, music on, let's all dance and have a good time.
Yeah.
and let's forget about the outside world.
There was no
Just let go.
pretension. There
Just
was
let
no
go, yeah.
pretension
Yeah.
to it.
This
Exactly.
is a place where
Yeah.
you're safe. Let's let go and do it.
Exactly, it's a safe space.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So, well, before we end this, I do want to hear about what you're currently doing. So, like the organization that you're working with presently, can you tell us a little bit about that?
Yeah, so when the pandemic sort of hit, I got introduced to a charity called Last Night, a DJ Saved My Life. They're a UK-based charity, but they work globally. And they basically started this initiative during the lockdown called Set for Love.
Sorry, what is it?
Set
For Love.
Okay. Set for Love.
So they basically they wanted to launch DJ live streams, DJs to play a set for love.
Yeah.
So you're playing a set for love, and the money was to raise money for the hardest hit countries in the world during the pandemic. Places like Uganda, Tanzania, Nepal. We were rescuing kids from, trafficking and all that sort of stuff in the Philippines. These are the kind of charities they work with.
Real world impact stuff here.
Yeah, I mean, so basically they've been around for about 10 years and they've done some really big things. They actually did a big show at the Houses of Parliament in the UK, the first ever rave at the Houses of Parliament with Fatboy Slim.
How cool is that?
They ran a DJ competition for these kids to play with Fatboy Slim at the Houses of Parliament.
So he's heavily involved too, then.
So that was kind of one of those, when I saw them, I went, oh, maybe I want to be involved in this live stream thing. So I did my first live stream with them. Really enjoyed it. And I was like, met up in the community. That's how I met Lincoln Hawk.
I think I actually met you through some random post that you had posted online about needing CDJs in Chicago. So
Yes.
I linked you up
That's
with
what it was.
some of my connections in Chicago to
Oh, yeah.
kind of help you out with that.
Yeah, so those guys, they've been doing that for a long time, and they started this live stream thing, and it was DJ Ease, aka Nightmares on Wax.
Yes.
Him and Johnny Lee, who runs Last Night a DJ,
Yeah.
are old friends from Leeds back in the day. So he was like, well, why? We can't have parties because nobody can get together, so why not do this live stream thing? It seems to be, let's see if we can set this up. So they set this up, and I remember the first one. It was kind of a mess. I mean, obviously they had the headliners. They had Louis Vega, Carl Cox, Maxine, like some of the biggest names in the industry had come out and played sets for them. If get onto YouTube and check some of them out, they're amazing. And I was like, look, I really want to get involved. This is something I can really get my teeth into. Like, DJing's my thing, and if I can use it in any kind of communal sense for community or charity, hey, let's do it. So I reached out to them. I sent them an email, and I went, like, I'm in the States, and I know you're in the UK or whatever, but if you ever need any help with anything at all, like, I'm pretty good with a lot of things. I'm happy to help.
Yeah.
If you even need me just to get the word out in the States, I'm happy to just spread the word.
So what are you doing for them now?
So they messaged me back and they said, listen, what we need is somebody to look after our Facebook group. And I was like, okay. Yeah. They had their first event. They opened the Facebook group. There was like 7,000 people joined in the space of like 2 weeks.
Oh, wow. That's huge.
And they needed someone to look after the Facebook page. And I thought, well, it's not really my thing, but I'm happy to help.
Yeah.
That evolved from me looking after the Facebook page to looking after their social media to becoming their tech liaison to hosting webinars on tech, on teaching DJs how to live stream.
Wow.
Very cool.
What an awesome job. You're also, what a really cool influence that is. You're still influencing people. You're still in the music. You're still not centered around something single. But the biggest thing is you're also making an impact still.
Yeah.
You're a part of an impact, which is pretty freaking amazing. It seems to be some consistency with that throughout like your whole life. You're always
man. That's the thing.
Really
It's never been about me. It's never been I think that's kind of where I've maybe separated myself and where I've maybe failed as a DJ musician because I haven't been selfish enough. I haven't been selfish enough.
I've always felt the same way. I mean, I don't really care about personally what I'm doing. I just want to share this with as
honestly
many people.
With a lot of DJs. I think you're a lot more successful than a lot of us in a lot of ways. It's not just about playing, in front of thousands and thousands of people.
I mean,
you're making an impact. Who gets to? There's so many DJs who do play big parties, but do they make that impact?
Yeah, I mean, I guess whatever. I mean, I'm sure those guys make impact or whatever they're doing. I mean, as long as I feel good in myself with it. I've played a couple of parties where I've went, that doesn't feel nice, and I don't want to do this anymore.
Yeah, I think we all have.
We've all done
that.
Yeah,
was me last week.
But I think coming here and meeting you guys and the combination of sort of Brickyard, the concourse, and the last night of DJ thing, just it kind of. I almost felt like I was in my early 20s again, rediscovering DJing, rediscovering the world, because I'd been out of it a little bit. Because I'd been concentrated. Like, even when I was in Florida, I was majority music-wise, I was managing bands. I was doing some tour stuff. I was going out on the road with them. I wasn't really DJing or in that party scene. But since moving to Knoxville, I've got back into it and fallen in. And you guys have really spurred me. Like, that kind of, it was almost a little sort of nudge that I needed to really sort of bring myself back to what I really want to be doing.
I'm personally glad that you're back, because honestly, like, I was not lying. Like, the last time I saw you play was probably one of the best sets I've ever seen. And a lot of people really noticed that. They're like, they noticed how you were fearless is the word I heard a lot of, which we don't see enough of that. We see people trying to be perfect, and instead of being fearless. And I think that's really shows for everybody. And so, I mean, I think that's one thing. I'm really glad you're still doing this. I'm hoping that a lot of people will watch this and, hear this story, because this is an amazing story. This is a really amazing story. And I think that it has a lot of things, a lot of lessons that we could all learn,
I appreciate that.
I just want to say, thanks for taking your time to do this with us today, man. And, we're
always down to throw down with the guys.
Very glad to have you here and part of our family, of music here in Knoxville. We're blessed to have you, man.
No, I'm glad to be here, man.
Yeah.
So keep an eye out for this 12-foot tall, Irish, big-ass red beard guy. If you see him jump up on the decks, you're going to have a great time.
Yeah, come say hi to him, because he already said he's probably not going to do it to you.
Yeah, I'm not going to say hi to you. Come and say hi to me.
Come say hi. So, awesome. Thank you very much.
Awesome,
Nice, guys.
awesome, man. Thanks a lot for coming out, guys. Thanks a lot. I hope that you all enjoyed this, and if you have any comments or whatever, let us know down below. Let us know how we can make this the best experience for you too.
Yes.
And we'll see you next time here at the Art of House.
Yes. Cool. Sounds good, man.